We're an NGO concentrating on malleefowl conservation across southern New South Wales all the way around to WA. We have 8 different staff members across the country, and this is one of the ways in which we are using new technologies to help with our monitoring of malleefowl. So first, I just want to acknowledge the traditional owners on many lands on which we live, work and operate across New South Wales, Vic, South Australia and Western Australia. We recognise their continuing connection to the land, waters and culture, and pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging. I want to acknowledge all the Indigenous groups across the country that we work with as well to conserve malleefowl. This photo on the right is a great photo of us at a on-country workshop in WA with 7 different Indigenous groups, learning from the malleefowl guru here, Joe, talking about how to excavate malleefowl mounds. So why LIDAR? So there's been a lot of different ways to try and detect where malleefowl mounds are across the mallee bushlands in Australia, but we came across LIDAR as it detects these fine topographic changes in the landscapes. One of the big things as well is malleefowl mounds can exist in very dense mallee habitat, and so having LIDAR being able to penetrate that vegetation to get those changes in the topographic was really important. After that, the models that you can create with LIDAR can generate these fantastic 3D models, which can give you a really good view of what the mounds look like across the landscape. And the big one was trying to reduce our on-ground survey effort and the amount of time and funds that was going into that at the time. And it's sort of, you can see that in short there, it's really was a much faster way. And one of the big things was detecting these mounds across the landscape where there was too much human error and we weren't actually finding most of the mounds when going out and doing our traditional survey efforts. So the traditional methods a lot of the time included long walks along transects, using 15, 20 people, covering maybe about a 20 square kilometre area, and with a large amount of error in that. So it was requiring a lot of people, a lot of time, and we weren't really ticking off everything we could. A great story is we've actually got one of our staff members who works a lot on malleefowl is in the bushland in Victoria, and every day he drives and walks a certain road to take people out to view birds. And he was traveling 300 meters along this track to find a malleefowl mound that he knew of. And even though when he did LIDAR recently, and this is a very experienced person, he found a mound only 10 meters from where he was stopping the car, which was only 2 meters off the track he was traveling every day. So it gives you an idea, even a very experienced person traveling something every day had a lot of error in being able to find malleefowl mounds, even within sort of a very short distance. So this great idea came about 2015 was the first LIDAR by our National Malleefowl Recovery Group. It followed a successful trial in WA by ANDITI, and our head of the board, Joe Ben-Shemish, met with Peter, one of the heads of ANDITI, at a conference, and they sat down talking about this fantastic opportunity that was LIDAR. It meant we could focus on much larger remote areas that could have been a lot more difficult and sometimes dangerous to send people out to do the surveys. And so Peter and Joe started looking at this large scope of LIDAR across the country to get a real insight into this dense vegetation and where malleefowl mounds were occurring. ANDITI is based in Newcastle, but they have staff across the country. And I think I even saw Gareth Evans is listening in here. He is one of their staff members. So it's great to see Gareth online. Skip to 2025. Now, we as the National Malleefowl Recovery Group have expanded exponentially with our LIDAR and have been able to get funds this year to do 569 square kilometers of mallee scrub. So an absolute huge amount of LIDAR this year compared to only 100 last year and only 60 the year before that we did as a group. The cost on average was roughly around $500 to $800 per square kilometer. And ANDITI has been an incredible resource for our group, as they don't just do all the back end recognizers and everything to find the mounds, but one of the incredible resources they provide is finding the right contractor to fly the LIDAR. They will search who's available for that time of year, get a few quotes from different contractors, and get sort of the best bang for buck at the timing. So a really incredible resource we've found is partnering with ANDITI on this project. So from the sort of perspective of once the LIDAR has been flown, so this LIDAR that we've done for malleefowl has generally been 6 LIDAR points per square meter. So you can go up to 8 to 12 preferred by ANDITI for the best results, but generally we sit around the 6. ANDITI then use UStilise, this data engine, to classify the on-ground vegetation. They then run the mound detection algorithms to have a look, and they review these results and manually verify. We can review results with aerial images as well, and we get this final report from ANDITI that gives us a lot of what we need to then do the ground truthing. So this is what a ground truthing report will look like from ANDITI. So we get all of these possible mound detections across the country, and they are rated from 1 through to 4. So 1 being a very likely mound and 4 under 10% likelihood. Now you can see the ratings all on the far right-hand side of that report table there. So what we're looking for when we do this is a 1 and a 2 mound should be an 80 to 100% hit rate. So we should be going to all those 1s and all those 2s that are likely mounds, and they should all be validated as a mound by on-ground staff. Now, we really want to see that drop significantly with 3s, and we should be only getting less than 40% hit rate on those, because what we generally want to see is that trend, so that when we're not really going to get any active or any mound detections with 4s. And a lot of the time that will then mean we will not ground truth, and we won't have to have the larger effort to go and check all of the grading 4s. You can see an example down the bottom of a Great Victorian Desert Survey. I believe this was back in 2019. So 71 of the rating 1s, 99%, fantastic. Then there was 10 rating 2s, 80% perfect. 24 3s, only 4%. So about halfway through those 3s of ground truthing, we actually stopped the effort, and we didn't do the rest of the 3s or the 4s because of that low percentage hit rate across the landscape. So the fantastic thing with ANDITI and our partnership is we're constantly evolving the algorithms. We're constantly providing feedback and getting these percentages better and better. If say we were getting a large hit rate on 3s where we were getting the 70%, 80%, we'd supply all that feedback to ANDITI, look at the algorithms, look at everything, and work with them to try and narrow that error. So this gives you a general idea. This is some LIDAR we did just south of the Big Desert in Victoria. These are all areas we're using for a genetic isolated malleefowl project currently in the area. And you can see the rating 1s, rating 2s, and ratings 3s in different colors there. So you can see the large hit rate of a lot of those properties. And then you can see some of the properties where we haven't had to put much effort into, say 8, 9, and 10 and 11, due to there not being any mounds. So you can imagine the people effort this would have taken to check all of these properties if we are looking at doing this all on foot. So this ended up being 90 square kilometers of LIDAR in total to check all of these areas. I'll give you this quick video. This can sort of shows you what a malleefowl mound comes up looking like from LIDAR, and the sort of 3D models that can come with that. This was supplied by ANDITI to give us that general scope of what the LIDAR ends up looking like. So you can see the malleefowl mound sort of centered in this picture, and the vegetation sort of structures around that. And this obviously shows the lay of the land. Perfect. So the great thing, as you can see from that, the data doesn't just end with the LIDAR and doing this work with ground truthing and everything. We actually can then use this for other malleefowl conservation work. Other projects may access our LIDAR to look at different animals and how this might impact their conservation. One project that's falling out of our malleefowl LIDAR right now is we're currently scoping for a PhD project, which will look at all the vegetation types and structures around malleefowl and where they're being the most successful in breeding and what vegetation structures they need across the landscape. And then that data is being given to rehabilitation and offsets and all of the different teams working on the mallee scrubland to determine, okay, what species are we going to plant? What trees do we need? What vegetation structure will look like for the best malleefowl mallee scrubland? So that's one of the great projects that will fall out of this. Other projects have been burrowing batons. There's wombat projects. There's a whole spate of other projects that can fall out of this LIDAR data. And we're very happy to share any of our data across to other projects and other conservation groups that might have use for it. I've kept it nice, short and sweet. I know running a little bit behind now. So here's some contact details for ANDITI. There's my contact details at the National Malleefowl Group. So reach out to any of us if you've got any questions.